Coming up in this episode of I Can't See You, I'll tell you about some timing issues and my trip to Harrisburg for the Blind Merchants Holiday Party and Fundraiser. There's a lot of great stuff. Stick with me.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the I Can't See You podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of I Can't See You, your window into a world where blindness doesn't dictate ability. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials, and welcome inside Studio B. And yes, there's even more stuff over to my right. Liz says it's coming out this weekend, but we'll see. Well, as I mentioned in the opener, I went to Harrisburg for the Blind Merchants Holiday Party and Fundraiser. And the main issue, and I've talked about this on plenty of other episodes, the main issue when you're blind or visually impaired, everything takes a lot longer. Sometimes it's because you can't see. Sometimes it's because of things because you can't see. For example, we were taking the train to Harrisburg from 30th Street Station. There were 17 of us on the train going out. And I bought my tickets on with Stacy and her daughter. Stacy takes CCT quite often. CCT is, I don't remember what it stands for, community transit. It's basically for disabled folks. It's an inexpensive way. It takes you door to door. It's when your bus or subway or trolley or train doesn't go from your place to where you need to go. But the problem with it is it's a small bus, so you get picked up. You're given a window of when you're going to get picked up. And I've talked about this, and I don't understand how in this day and age, when in your pocket you have a device that can summon a ride share, why they can't make some sort of arrangement with the ride share companies to take care of this. So you might get on at 10 o'clock and your journey may only be a couple of miles, but they may go past where you need to go to take you to somebody else's pickup or drop off. And you may be on that bus, and I guess you would call it a bus. Again, it's a very small bus. Almost, I don't want to call it a party bus, but it's that type of size, maybe a little bit smaller. And of course, it's well equipped to handle folks who are in wheelchairs and everything else. But you are at their mercy. And I joked with Stacy. I said, well, we'll see you at the train station. I said, you'll be there probably when I wake up. Well, the funny thing was, when I got on the train in Swarthmore to go into Philadelphia, she texted me and said that she was in the CCT. When I got to 30th Street Station in Philadelphia, she wasn't there, and in fact didn't show up until about 20 to 30 minutes before our Amtrak train was supposed to leave. And again, there were 17 of us on the train. When I walked over to the red cap area to see if anybody else was there was one other person there that was in our group. And I got a little concerned because as time went on, I couldn't get on the train if Stacy wasn't at the station because our ticket was one. It was one group ticket. And I was concerned because I knew that by the time we got out there, if we missed this train, we weren't going to get out there until after the party started. Waiting around, and I don't know how long exactly she was on the CCT, but she got there after everybody had gone down, and I was waiting with Harriet because she was waiting for her boyfriend Steve to come in via regional rail. So I walked her over to the SEPTA area. It's in the same station, but a different area. So when I walked her from the red cap area of 30th Street to the SEPTA area of 30th Street, that's when Stacy must have gotten there. So I went back after I dropped Harriet off to wait for her boyfriend, and that was about 20 or 25 minutes before our train to Harrisburg was supposed to leave. I walked back to the red cap area, and I thought, you know what? Stacy might have come while I was over on the other section of the building. So I texted her. I got nothing. I called her, nothing. And then finally she said, oh, I'm down on the platform. So I went over to the elevators and I went down and I caught up to them, which was great because I was a little concerned. And we ended up all being on the train. So that all worked out, and everything once we were on the train was fine. We got out there. Now, the shuttle, the hotel that we were using for the event and that they gave us a discount on the room rates was the Best Western Premier. That's the same place the NFB of Pennsylvania convention is going to be coming up in November, which I am the the chair for. I'll be asking you for a lot over these next 11 months for that, but not now. They have a shuttle. It only seats 9 or 10 people. And like I said, there were 17 of us. So I knew that meant 2 trips. Somebody said, get on the first one. And I said, no, I'm going to wait because I want to see what the turnaround time is. Because come November, when multiple groups of people are coming from Philadelphia and along the way to Harrisburg via Amtrak, I know that there's going to be more than 9 or 10 people on each train. So I don't know if we're going to stagger it. And I wanted to see what the turnaround time was. And the turnaround time wasn't bad. It was probably about a half an hour. So the people got on the first batch, the driver took them, and then he came back and picked up the rest of us. Could we have taken an Uber or a rideshare? Of course, but the shuttle was free. And I know most of the folks in the NFB would rather not have to pay for something. Not that it was a lot. I've told you in the past that from the train station to the Best Western, it's roughly $12. But again, if you don't have to pay for it, why would you, unless it's a time factor? When I go out to the convention, I'm going to go out a day or two before that. So it won't be an issue for me because I'm going to go out a day early and most folks aren't going to come out from Philadelphia and along the way till the next day. Driver comes back, we all climb in, we go, we check in. Everybody is as friendly as they could be. So the first issue was with timing on the CCT end. And just like I mentioned again in the intro, we are at their mercy. It's not like we picked up an Uber or a Lyft and we got stuck in traffic. That happens to everybody. But the CCT is specifically designed to, if you've got to get from point A to point B, they give you a window. And Stacy had the pickup time for 10 o'clock. And I don't think she got to the train station until about 11:30, between 11:20 and 11:30. So I don't know what time she actually got picked up. But there is that time. And that is, I've said it a lot of times, both on the show here and to anybody that will listen, the most precious thing you have is time. Because once it's gone, it's done. Never coming back. That moment is over. You're not going to feel the same way again as you did in that moment. Maybe you will feel better one day, more likely not. But some people think money is the most important thing. But when you spend $1, if you start a business, work a job, whatever it might be, you can make another $1. You can't make any more time. And it is so frustrating to me because things take so long. And I have been, in the course of my life, I have been very impatient. My Aunt Edie used to say to me, you got to learn to be patient. And I think of her all the time because I have gotten better. I'm not going to lie. I have gotten better. But time is so important, and I feel like the way time goes for me, I feel like I'm working the clock like Andy Reid did when he was coach of the Eagles. He was terrible at time management. I don't know if I'm terrible at time management or if it's just because it's a bunch of things that are all bundling up. We check into the hotel. Everything is great. It was, again, a very nice place. I can't wait to go there for our convention. And the room is huge. My room had 2 queen-size beds. Initially, we weren't sure if Liz and Ziggy were going to come with. It is a dog-friendly hotel, not just guide dog, just any kind of dog. But in the end, we figured, you know what? He's going to be out of his element. Who knows what he's going to do in the room and what we're going to have to put up on high shelves if they have high shelves. So Liz said, you know what? I'm not going to go. It just would be better if I stayed home. And that's fine. And for me, I didn't expect to actually sit for as long as I did and actually take in the festivities as I did, because I thought I would constantly be running and doing, and it turned out it wasn't that way, which was nice, because when I was on, it was a lot. And I'll get to that in a minute. I just want to jump in here and ask for your support this holiday season when you shop at Amazon.com. Go to ican'tseeyou.com/Amazon or use any of the links in the show notes and description below to help me earn a small commission on your qualifying purchase. Again, that's ican'tseeyou.com/Amazon. And also, make sure you check out this great ball that Ziggy absolutely loves. The link is down below. Please give it a click and take a look if you have a dog. They'll love it. Thanks so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. But we have this room. We ended up selling around 65 tickets to the event. It was $35 a head. It was at 52. We had 52 confirmed sales. A couple of people said they may buy. There were 2 people that I got a check from that I had forgotten about. So that was 54. So Pam told them 60. And we quickly got to 60 because, I forgot to get my money in on time. Okay, so we added you. Then when we got to 60, I said to Pam, what are we going to do? And she says, I don't know. What do you think? Again, we were both novices at this. And so I talked with Jane and I said, Jane, when you do events, and her events, of course, are different. They're not fundraisers. Typically, they are events put on by the brands that she does the PR for to bring in either influencers or stylists or whoever the case may be. And she had recommended going back to the hotel because it wasn't a true sit-down type of meal. Go back to the hotel and see if they could bump it up. We had a carvery station and we had a bunch of hors d'oeuvres and things like that. The food was great, and I'll talk about that more in a sec. So we were able to bump it to 65, which was great. We had 49 of the 65 people actually show up, and it was just a very nice evening. We had an auction of around, I think it was around 10 or 12 different items. Some were baskets full of a few things. Some were just packets of scratch-off lottery tickets. Again, the blind merchants typically have either vending machines, which have the lottery tickets in them, the scratchers, or they have blind bodega-type businesses inside federal buildings, office buildings, post offices, things like that. So they got these packets of $1 scratchers were donated by different merchants. And some of them came with an extra 50 additional bonus scratchers. So in some cases, they had a value of $150 for most of them. And most of them sold for over $200, which was great. And I'll get to the money bit in a minute too. But it was a really nice setup. They had a bar up front. They had a DJ. We got a DJ to do the music. And I don't think there was anything other than Christmas songs. And we had all of the auction items on a table up front. There was a Christmas tree as you're facing the front wall, Christmas tree to the left center, and then a long table with baskets for the auction, and then next to it, baskets for a raffle. And basically there were, again, maybe another 8 to 12 baskets that you bought a ticket. Tickets were $2 each or 6 for $10. And then you took the tickets and it had 2 stubs, both with the same number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You ripped them off of the one thing, you separated the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you keep one and the other one goes into the basket or into the almost like a ballot box in front of this basket. So I was a dummy. I separated my tickets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth. I had 2 strips of those. So I bought, initially I was given only 3 tickets. So when I got the next 3, I had already separated my first 3. So I didn't know which went with which because I couldn't see the number. So somebody with sight helped me out there. And that ended up being a little bit of a challenge for both of us at that point too. Put my tickets in the things that I wanted, wireless speaker and battery charger and whatnot. One of them had a flashlight on it. There were some other things. There was a coffee Keurig machine. I don't remember what else was there. Most, if not all of the stuff was donated. So we didn't pay anything for any of the auction items and any of the raffle baskets. They were donated by people. I donated, as I told you a couple of episodes ago, from the Keystone chapter basket that I won at the state convention. I took the gift cards out and we gave away. There was a blind Barbie. There was Scrabble with a large print in Braille. There was Braille Uno. There was a tactile Rubik's Cube type of puzzle. So instead of the colors, each side felt differently. So you had to line up all the same feelings. They called it Blindfold Twister, which for blind people, they don't need to put the blindfold on unless you're in a mixed group where some people have sight. In most blind sports, everybody wears covering over their eyes, because some people, even if you have a little bit of vision, like I've mentioned a million times, a little bit of vision is better than no vision. So to make it fair, everybody they're basically sleep shades. So that was in the basket. That ended up going for $225. I bought the basket with the $200 in gift cards at the state convention for $250. So you can see that, and even this amount, I think the value of that basket was probably between $100 and $150. I don't know how much the Scrabble was purchased for. I didn't get that. I don't know how much. There was a couple other things in there that I didn't know. But with the raffle, we ended up making $840 on the raffle tickets. And I had never seen raffle done like this before until back in October, I was at the Greater Lehigh Valley Dancing in the Dark event, a black tie event, or I guess I should say a semi-formal event, that they did baskets like that. And you could win one, you could win several. It's the matter of your ticket getting drawn. And again, each raffle basket had its own ballot box. So if you wanted the Keurig machine with this coffees, and I think they had a couple of travel mugs in there and things like that, you put your ticket into that box. And I split my tickets. I put it in a couple of different items, and I didn't win anything, which was okay. I was doing it to help. And I was, when I was going home the next day, I thought to myself, boy, I'm glad I didn't win anything, because it would have been a hassle carrying that extra thing home. So that's how the room was laid out. Again, bar was up front and to the left. Now, when I first got there, I walked in and Lynn Heights and her husband Ray were already in the room. And I went over to say hello. And she said, "Guess who the bartender is?" I said, "Oh, I have no idea who." It ended up being the guy, his name is Desmond, who worked at the Crown Plaza and was the hospitality manager or sales manager at the Crown Plaza, as well as the bartender and things like that. And he was, I don't want to say he was a big portion of why things were bad when we were there for the state convention last year. But I don't know that that would be fair, because I don't know what he was given. But he was there, and I said to Lynn, I said, boy, that just made turn tonight in a bad way. Because this guy, when we were going back and forth with the hotel back then because of what they didn't do and they said they were going to do, and we were trying to come to a financial agreement, hey, here's what we're going to pay you, and here's what we're not going to pay you. When we had mentioned a specific incident, he says, we have it on video. That's not how it went. And we went back and forth with that. And I finally said, if you think that video will hold up in court, then that's fine. We'll leave it at that. So it was contentious when we were on the phone with this guy back in December of last year. And now he's the bartender, and he now works at the Best Western Premier in Harrisburg. I'll tell you more about him in a little bit. After that, I had talked to Pam and I said, hey, what do you need me to do? Anything specific? And she said, no, everything's good. The staff was setting everything up, and the staff was very nice there at the hotel. After a little bit, I went back out front because we had a table right outside the door where the raffle tickets were sold. And I told them I have ones and I have fives and I have tens in preparation of needing them for change. Again, I'm the treasurer of the blind merchants, and I will get to that in a minute because I'm not sure how much longer they're going to want me to be treasurer. I let them know, and Pam's daughters were running that table. And I said, look, if you need anything, just come and get me. I'll stop back out and check on you in case you do need any kind of change. I went back in, and at this point, I think the food had started to be put out on. There were 2 tables in the back of the room. So if we're looking at the Christmas tree up front, all the way against the back wall, there was a cold hors d'oeuvre section, buffet style, and then about 6 feet in front of that, there was hot hors d'oeuvres. They had Swedish meatballs and they had spring rolls. I only had the spring rolls of the hot stuff, but I did have on the back, on the cold stuff, they had fresh veggies and dip, and they had basically a giant charcuterie board full of, you know what? I don't remember seeing meats now that I think about it. It was, I guess, mostly cheeses and crackers, which was awesome because I honestly didn't think I was going to eat that much. And I ended up eating quite a bit of the cheese and the veggies. Like I said, I had a few spring rolls after a couple of people told me how good they were. And I was sitting next to Harriet. Harriet is born in the Philippines, but her parents are Chinese. And I said, how are the spring rolls? She says, oh, they're really good. I said, oh, well, if an Asian person tells me the Asian food is good, I'm going to go get it. And that's what made me go and get it. But it was very good. It was set up. The one thing that's hard when you're blind and you're carrying your cane, you've got to use your cane in one hand. So when you're trying to pick up the different cheeses with the tongs, it's hard to maneuver sometimes because my cane kept flopping around under my arm, and you know, I kept having to catch it without without shaking my plate too much because I don't want to dump everything that I just put on the plate onto the floor. I get everything I need. I go, I sit down and I eat it. Again, really good. I dropped a cracker when I sat down. A cracker fell off my plate, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute or two. I eat that. There's a water station back there. I went and I grabbed some water. And I'm starting to talk to a couple of other people at the table. There's a person named Hillary that was there and tried to help her get her stuff. I got up another time to go get some more veggies and cheese. And when I came back, Danny, Lynn's dog, was blocking where my seat has to pull in to get under the table. And I looked down. Danny, the floor was a dark colored pattern. So I could see his head, and I saw something white in front of him, and I thought, oh God, there's the cracker. That's the cracker that I dropped. And he's sniffing at it and then backing away a little bit, then sniffing at it. Then he nudges it with his nose. And I'm thinking to myself, go ahead, just eat it and then get out of my way so I can pull in. And finally he ate it and he moved, and I pulled in and I ate whatever it was I just got. A little bit later, I helped Hillary go to the carving station. She got some roast beef, and the person who was doing that, she said, oh, there's some rolls here. Would you like a roll? Hillary did. And I said, oh, is it okay? I might come back for a roll or two later. And later on I did. And they were little teeny tiny rolls, but they were so good. It was some sort of herb roll. Awesome. And at one point I'm starting to drag. I thought, you know what? It'd be great if they had iced tea. I said to Lynn or Harriet, I said, I'm going to go up to the bar. I said, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Went up to the bar and I asked Desmond, I said, do you have any unsweetened iced tea? I know it's a long shot. He said, hang on one second. And he walked out of the room, and the restaurant for the hotel was just out this back door of the room. And he comes back with a iced tea with a hunk of lemon on it. And when I got back to the table, I said to, again, not sure who, I said, if this drink isn't roofied, I will love him forever, because I never expected to get that. And the fact that he went and got it for me, just outstanding. Again, because it was a very contentious couple of phone calls we had when he worked at the other place. After a bit, Pam started to draw the raffle baskets and starts calling numbers. And I go up front just so I can get some pictures of people. And she starts calling out numbers. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to know if I even won. But I figured, you know what? If nobody claims it, then I'll look at my ticket, because it was hard to do because it was noisy in there, trying to use Seeing AI. I didn't have any earbuds or AirPods on me. So I thought, let's just see if nobody claims it, then I'll look. And everybody claimed, so I was good. And they verified everybody. So I knew I didn't win. It was okay. Some more music, a little bit more eating, and there was plenty of food. It worked out really well. Then it comes time for the auction, and I thought, okay, where am I going to set up? Because again, I'm the treasurer, and I've got to be at a place where I can take the payments. And the way we were going to be taking payments, cash would have been great, because that's the easiest. Check, We'll get to that in a minute. Check could be hit or miss for me. Or I had set up a PayPal page where I had the QR code on my phone. So if somebody needed to pay and wanted to pay by credit card, they could just scan the QR code on my phone and then go through and pay by credit card on PayPal at this link. They could check the box if they wanted to cover the costs. One auction, there's a winner, $300. Next auction, $160. Now, the $160 one, Pam won, and I knew I wasn't going to see her for a while as far as coming back to pay. Next one goes off, nobody comes back. And they were bringing me each one. And I'm thinking, how am I going to keep track of these as they keep piling up? And I did have a long table to work with, but am I going to be able to tell the difference between these things? And I was hoping to keep it. I kept a list in notes on my iPhone. That notes is great on the computer. It's just okay on the phone because you can't just read one line at a time. If you do, you've got to drag your finger and just pause. You can't just tap the one line and have it stop there. It will just keep going. So you kind of have to just drag as you want to go down. Again, not as easy as on the computer where you can go line by line a lot easier. At one point, I had the first 5 or 6 auction items are sitting there on the table. And I thought, oh my gosh, if everybody comes at once to pay, it's going to be brutal. So it did get hectic a few times when people were coming up and they wanted to pay, and then the Wi-Fi didn't work, so the person couldn't get onto the PayPal page to pay. Somebody said, well, could I pay by check? And they said, yes. And then that's where the issue comes. I don't know if I lost a check or if they said, oh, I'll go get some money from my husband and then I'll just pay you cash, because that happened also. So I'm not 100% sure. I called the hotel the next day because I didn't know. I had looked around. I didn't see it. I don't know if I dropped it there. I don't know if when I took it out of my pocket somewhere else, if I dropped it. Again, the feeling in my hands is terrible. So I could have dropped it anywhere. And I got confused at one point because I had a check in my wallet. That check in my wallet was meant to go to Harriet from the Keystone chapter to reimburse her for something. So I'm concerned about that $275, but not even counting that $275, we took in about $6,000, $6,000. And I was speaking to Pam today. The hotel charges and the DJ added up to about $2,800 and change. So we made over $3,000 for this event. And the whole time I'm there, I'm thinking, why did it seem so easy? And I know because I wasn't the one doing most of the work. I created the PayPal links. I took the payments via PayPal for the tickets and so forth and so on. It didn't take me a long time to do that. And it doesn't sound like Pam invested a huge amount of time. Again, I'm thinking about things like Believe You Can and the hours and hours and hours that we spent doing that. This didn't seem like it was that bad. Now, we're doing something in the spring called Spring Fling that's going to be more entrepreneurial, meaning we're going to have vendors that have tables that people can go and meet with. And hopefully we'll have, I don't know that it will be as big as this, because we got a lot of donations and things like that. I don't know that it'll be as big, but it was very successful. But the amount of time that I waited for people, and then after just about everybody had left, I'm sitting there waiting for more people to come back because I still had 6 or 7 items there. And I don't remember how many auctions there were. Again, at least, I was going to say at least 10, but there had to be more because when everybody left the room and I was the only one in there, I think there were still 6. So it was just, everybody had a great time. And after a while, I thought, you know what, everything seems safe in here. I'm just going to leave it and see what happens. And I walked down to the bar where a few people were waiting. And by the time I got there, it was past last call, so I wasn't going to have another iced tea. And we stayed in there for a little bit. And then they finally said, look, we're going to be shutting down. You got to go. And everybody was paying attention to the Penn State-Oregon game. And I thought we'd be able to stay at least until the end of that. That wasn't the case. We then have a post party in one of the unused rooms that somebody had gotten that wasn't being used. And that was fun. We hung out there for a while and it was a lot of fun. I went back to my room and I sorted the money and I counted the money because I was basically walking around with $1,600 in cash and these checks. And I don't know, maybe I left that other check on the bed because I was taking the money and the checks and putting everything on the bed and separating everything. Maybe I did it there. I don't know. The only reason I think my treasurer job is safe is because nobody wants to do it, including me. But it is what it is. And I'm hoping the hotel called me today because I called them a day or two ago. I asked if anybody turned to check in. I'm not too concerned with it getting into the wrong hands because it was already written out, PA Association of Blind Merchants, and the dollar amount, which if there is a check, I want to say it was for $275. Again, not 100% there. All was good after I got back. I think my head hit the pillow and within 2 minutes I was out. The next day I get up and I go down to the hotel restaurant figuring I'll eat breakfast there and then eat my protein bar on the train, which worked out really well because it was a buffet breakfast for $15 and I had eggs and some hash brown home fries, whatever they were called, breakfast potatoes. I don't know what they were called. People just said, "Oh, there's potatoes here," and had a piece or two of bacon and some tea. And that all was fine. And we finally got everything situated with the baskets. The guy who left some of them in the room, we ended up taking them down to him. I texted him yesterday to tell him how much he owed, which was $900. And so all was good. We then made our way over to the train station on the shuttle. And we're waiting around. And I'm talking to Stacy and talking to a few other folks. We don't see anybody. It was like night of the comet. And only people in the train station there was a guy working in the store. There's a little tiny store there. There was somebody working in the store. And I think there was somebody at the ticket booth, but otherwise we never saw any red caps. And our train was supposed to leave at 1:05 at, I don't remember if it was 12:30, 20 to 1, somewhere in there. By this time, we're downstairs on the platform because there's not as many of us this time. I want to say there were 7. I think there were 7 of us. So finally I said, all right, well, let's go down in the elevator. I know the elevator is over here. There's no red caps coming. So I took the velvet line rope off and hung it up and hit the elevator button. And we all went down on the elevator and waited on the platform for the train. And finally, as the train started to pull in, I think it was a conductor who was getting on that train, told us where we could go. And we followed her and we all sat. I think we were all in the same car. Here's the funny thing about the traveling back. So like I said, coming out, there were 17 of us on the train. Going back to Philadelphia, 10 of them took an earlier train. Not sure I don't remember what the train is called, but the number was 666. And I was joking with Denise because she and I last year took that train back and without any issue. And those folks, Denise and Eugenio, they all took the earlier train, which left somewhere in the 11 o'clock hour. Here's another thing with the time, because they wanted to get home. It would get them back to Philadelphia right around 1 o'clock so they could get home and listen to the Eagles game. We're on the train for 10 or 15 minutes and somebody in front of me who's with our group gets a call from somebody who was on train 666. And again, our train this is probably 1:15. They should have been home already, not just at 30th Street Station, in their houses. They weren't in their houses. They were at the Exton train station, standing on the platform, because train 666, the quiet car, caught fire. And Harriet happened to be in the quiet car and smelled like a burning rubber that she said was from the conductor's shoes who was standing right above the fire in that car. So they all waited and they were first going to try to fix the car. Then they were going to try to uncouple the car and just move on with the rest of that train. Finally, they waited and they even called it this. We rescued them. I got a text from Amtrak saying that's what was going to happen. They made an announcement on the train and they told us what was going on. We ended up being about a half an hour late. So when we got to Philadelphia, I had to scramble to get to the SEPTA platform that I needed to be on to make sure I got onto that SEPTA train coming to Swarthmore because I didn't want to pay for a ride share. It's from 30th Street Station. It could be anywhere from $30 to $50. And I didn't want to pay that. I did make it to the train and I got home. And when I got off the train in Swarthmore, Liz and Ziggy were there waiting for me. All in all, it was a lot of fun. And you could kind of see how everybody had a few drinks, and it wasn't an open bar. It was a cash bar. People spent a lot of money on booze that night. The whole CCT thing, though, it was on my mind the whole time that I was on the train. I was out there in Harrisburg, because it is just an issue, and everybody in every state complains about it. In every state, it's a little bit different. Nobody ever has anything really nice to say about it. When it works, it's great, but it's very infrequent that if you need to be at a place on time, and as I've mentioned in the past, if you have a job and you got to start at 9:00, you've got to figure out, okay, I may be dropped off at 8:45. I may be dropped off at 9:30. How many times are they going, your boss is going to say, hey, you're in at 9:30 again. You got to do something else, or you're going to have to leave. We're going to have to get rid of you. So I don't know how that all works out when you have a doctor's appointment. And I kind of know the answer because Stacy does it. She calls hours and gets picked up hours in advance, but then she's sitting somewhere for hours, and that's nothing that is, it's just such a waste of time. Your most precious thing. It is just such a waste of time. And it makes me sad because there are so many other things that we are battling. This shouldn't be one of them. But I'm really excited to get back out to the premiere. I'm so excited. I'll be going out in about 8 days or so. There is a OVR meeting that I'll be going to. I'm staying out there again in that hotel. So I'll take the shuttle again. I'll get to see how that is again. And I'll go to the OVR meeting. And then once I get done the OVR meeting, I'm going to get back on a train, come to Philadelphia, and go to the Philly Meetup for the Blind and Visually Impaired Christmas Party. And another issue with time. When you text, and again, I don't text typically by typing the things out. My hands hurt so much most of the time that it just takes me forever to type. And it just bothers me to hold the phone steady enough. And I've dropped it 3 times today already. So I usually dictate. And if you've ever tried dictation, you know what I'm about to say. Getting together with a friend in a couple of days, and we're going to all meet up. And I was texting with another friend, and I was telling her who's coming to meet up with our friend at Pinocchio's in Media. And I said, Ken's in, you're in, so-and-so's in, this guy's in, that guy's in. And when I listened to it, I swore it said, Ken's in urine, comma. And sure enough, when I went to it and I went letter by letter, it did say that. So I went back to the end of the text and I just added on and I said, I normally would replace this, but I thought this was funny and I thought you'd get a kick. But this is what it's like when you have to dictate every text that you send. And sure enough, she thought it was hysterical. And same thing happened. Now, I can't send that message if it's some sort of business. I can do that with friends, but I can't do that if I'm asking a question to a business or working with a business for web development or whatever. I have to go back and fix it. And it is constantly an issue. When I paid for my ticket for the Philly Meetup for the Blind Christmas Party, and I put in the Cash App, what's it for? I said Philly Meetup Christmas Party. You know what it said? Silly Meetup Christmas Party. Again, she thought it was funny. And when I went to WhatsApp to tell the group that I'd be there, I said, you'll love what dictation did with it. But when I'm sending a text to client or again, somebody else in the NFB that is not part of the NFBFPA where might think it's funny, I can't leave it. And sometimes there's so many errors that I have to start over. And again, it's just an issue that just takes time. You can't do anything. You can't send a quick text. There's no such thing. When you dictate and have to go and listen letter by letter to figure out what's wrong, it's not fast. And again, another time thing that you have to deal with. Everything just takes longer. Lisa and I have talked about that. Everybody that is in our community at one point and another, just like we all have heard it's right over there when you know somebody's pointing somewhere, we've all been to the delay and the amount of time that it takes for us to do certain things or many things. That'll do it for this episode. And if you've been with me from the beginning, this is episode 276. So there are 275 other podcast episodes. Video, it's probably a little over a dozen. But I really do appreciate you listening or watching, whatever you're doing. Please reach out on social media at David Benj on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. And I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out there. You can also listen to this podcast on YouTube at David Benj. And you don't need the @ sign there. It's just youtube.com/David Benj. That's how long I've had that channel. And the only thing really on there are the audio versions and a static image. And you can watch this episode if you're listening right now and want to see what Studio B looks like or what I look like. I don't know why. Not much to look at there, but please check out the video over on YouTube, youtube.com/@ICan'tSeeYou. As always, I'd love to hear from you directly if you don't want to do it via social media. 646-926-6350. You've got up to 3 minutes. Please leave your name and your town if you do leave a voicemail. I'd love to use that on an upcoming episode. Again, 646-926-6350. Please give me a call. Let me know what you think. You've got questions. If you have any time management skills, please, I would love to know them because I need to do something because I'm just not getting everything done. It's just, I don't know what it is. You could also email me, ican'tseeyoupodcast@gmail.com, ican'tseeyoupodcast@gmail.com. As always, the show notes are over on the website, ican'tseeyou.com/276. That's ican'tseeyou.com/276, numerically speaking. And remember, I Can't See You sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 characters long. ican'tseeyou.com/276. But that will do it for episode 276. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. Be well, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the I Can't See You podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.